I've tried to meet 5 people a day for the past year, which has been a crazy goal. I've probably met 500 people, and obviously not all of them are selling real estate, but they're telling someone, they're giving my card to someone, they're following me on Instagram.
Welcome, everyone, to the Closing Table Podcast, real accounts from real estate professionals brought to you by Window Still. I'm your host, Kat Schooler, and today I'm sitting down with real estate agent Mackenzie Douglas out of Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida. Mackenzie is with Realty Group One Elevate, and today we talk about how she got started in real estate at an early age. She shares some of her most memorable transactions, like selling her friend's childhood home, and we talk about some of the biggest lessons and challenges she's faced so far in her real estate career. So, without further ado, let's chat with Mackenzie. Mackenzie, thank you so much for joining me today. I would love to start off by hearing about your story and how you got into real estate.
All right. Well, my name is Mackenzie Douglas. I am 24. I live in Ponte Vedra Beach. I started in real estate in 2019, pre-pandemic, when things were way different than they are now. But luckily for me, I got a look into what the real work of real estate is. I started out as an assistant to a top producer for a few years in Gainesville, Florida, where I'm from. And then I moved to Jacksonville, Florida, worked in the corporate office of my first brokerage, realized, what am I doing sitting in the office? I can be out here selling real estate with all these people. And so I got my license, and I've been licensed for 2.5 years now, and I have never looked back. It's my full-time job and my passion, helping people. So that's how I got started, and I hope to continue on for a very long time.
Well, awesome. Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk about how you work with clients when you're sitting down with someone for the first time, whether they're like buying or selling. Like, what does that meeting look like for you?
Yeah, so usually a lot of people I work with are my sphere. I'm super lucky to have built my business off referrals and people that I literally talk to all the time. So a lot of them already know what I'm doing, already know what I'm up to, and they just give me a call and say, "Hey, I'm ready to sell my house, I'm ready to buy something." And then we do an initial conversation. We sit down, we have coffee, and I tell them, if we're doing this together, we're basically going to be dating for the next however long until we get to the closing table. And if they're okay with that, then we move forward with, whatever they're looking for, whether that's to buy a house or to sell the house they have right now.
Awesome. And are there questions that you like to ask people? Is there questions you like people to ask you? Maybe if it's their first time buying or selling?
100%. I definitely ask people if they have bought and sold before, if they've done this transaction before. It's honestly a little simpler process because they understand the process. First time home buyers, you just have to hold their hands a little more, and that doesn't bother me at all. So either type of people I'm willing to work with, but you got to ask a million questions: their background, why they want to move, their finances. They get very emotional with you. They tell you personal things, and you kind of build all of that into a storyline of, okay, what is the goal for both of us to get to a happy place for them in the end?
Perfect. Do you have any memorable times where you helped someone buy or sell a house?
Yeah, for sure. So in Gainesville, where I'm from, I started real estate there, and then I moved over here about a year ago. But when I lived there, I had the pleasure to sell my best friend's childhood home that I'd actually played in like my whole life growing up. And they had had it as a rental investment property before I had my license. And then when I had my license, she let me sell the house, and it was crazy that this home that I'd grown up in I got to sell, and that was really memorable for me. And we got top dollar for it, and that was a really good feeling to be able to help my best friend's family in that time of need that they needed to get rid of their home. And another really cool thing that I've done is help a buyer come here from Texas and buy a home sight unseen. They trusted me completely with buying a whole home and moving to Florida. And they'd never seen it before they moved here, but they trusted me, and I love the house, they love the house, and everything worked out. It was supposed to, but that's super crazy to buy a home that you've never been in before, only on FaceTime.
Yeah, that is like daunting. I don't think I could ever do that, but I could understand in certain times when the market was really hot, right? And you had to move really fast, that you might have to do things like that. So, can we dig into that a little bit? Like, how did you handle that? Were you sending a lot of video? Was it a transaction that moved pretty quickly?
Yeah, so they were actually VA referral clients, so they had to move for work. Unfortunately, I think they did want to stay in Texas. So maybe if it was more of not as much of a business decision, an emotional decision, and they didn't have a 2-month timeline that they had to live here by, then maybe they would have come down and flown and seen it. But they also, didn't have a lot of money to do all that. It wasn't a super expensive house. So I basically went to the houses. I would FaceTime with them and I'd show them the best ones I could. Find, the closest ones to where their work was going to be, which was their main priority. And she was really good about giving me her requirements. And as long as you have expectations and like they know what they want and you're going to be able to deliver that, it's not hard to go from there. And yeah, I FaceTimed them, and then every time I had something going on, I would just call them or send them pictures. Like I said, we dated for those 3 months that we were in the contract, and we would talk all the time. And when they moved here, I went and we had dinner together and wine, and it was a great time at the end of it.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yes.
And they're so lucky to have you as someone very local to kind of like
Right.
then show them around once they got into town.
Right. But the crazy part about that is that referral was from Instagram, from a realtor on Instagram that we just followed each other, and she reached out and asked if they could interview me. And I mean, I won the interview. Obviously, they had to interview me like to make sure, but if I had not had Instagram and a basis and a following and she didn't see that I was local and selling so much, I wouldn't have gotten that referral.
Oh,
And I
that's
wouldn't have gotten
cool.
those clients that are now probably going to sell with me when they have to move in 3 years. So everything just ripples, which is a really amazing part of real estate.
Let's let's look at that a little more. So, you both were just happened to follow each other? Were you did you comment on each other's stuff, or was it more like out of the blue?
Um, I wouldn't say it was out of the blue. I try to the company I'm in, Realty One, we have referral programs all over the country because we're a franchise. So that really encouraged me to build out referral partners with different people in different states. And so as soon as we followed each other a few months ago, she messaged me and said, "Hey, I work with VA clients working all the time, moving from Texas to Jacksonville. Like, would you be my preferred referral partner?" And I said, "Yes, of course. I'll do the same for you." And we comment each other, stay in each other's posts. You gotta watch their stories. You gotta interact with them. You can't just say yes and go ghost. And then when it was time for them to sell, she chose me to send them to. So I was really fortunate to have that encounter. But I wouldn't just say you can't just message them, hey, and do nothing. You gotta build a relationship, even if it is over Instagram, and you might not ever meet them.
Right, certainly. I mean, I have heard of agents being found, a little more out of the blue, like, and that's I think why it's so important for people such as yourself to have your location right in your bio or in your name. Because I was talking to one real estate agent earlier this year that's how she was found and got a referral that way. So it's really interesting to hear all sorts of different versions of that experience.
But I will say sometimes people only think that I sell in this area, which is not huge, but I gotta emphasize we can sell in all of Florida. If you have a Florida license, it's not like that in every state. I do understand
Hmm.
that. So people just sometimes don't know that, but I can sell anywhere in Florida.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
What would you say is one of the biggest lessons you've learned in real estate?
The biggest lesson that I've learned is that
Hmm.
sometimes people don't pay their taxes, and you need to check that. Always check if people pay their taxes. I'm a listing. I try to do listings, so I always try to do everything like title search, all that stuff. You want to make sure all that stuff, even though it's not on you, it could be on you in the end. So nothing bad has ever happened, but just, sometimes you never know with people, and you get to the closing table and they don't think they're gonna have as much money in their pocket in the end as they originally thought because something wasn't paid or there was an oversight. And then also just always being present for every inspection, anything to do in the house. If they touch something and it's your fault, if something's misplaced, it's your fault. So if you're there, just cover all the bases, make sure all the doors are locked, lights are off, cover all your bases for everything, just to make sure no mistakes do happen. Those were my biggest lessons so far.
Totally, totally. What would you say are some like real estate myths that you've seen that you'd like to words? Oh my. I'll start again. What are some real estate myths you've seen that you'd like to debunk?
So, some real estate myths would be that renting is equal to buying, which is not. I think people think that it's so expensive to buy and it's not like an asset for them, it's more of a liability, but you're building so much equity from it in the end that it is worth it for you. You're just paying 100% interest every month that you pay rent, unfortunately, and that's why rent just can keep climbing and climbing. Another thing I would say is a myth about real estate is let me think. No, it's another myth. Oh, that it's easy, that anyone can do it, which anyone can do anything they put their mind to, but you have to put like your full time and effort and passion into it. A lot of people just willy-nilly want to do it, and that's fine, but it takes a lot of work. So maybe that people, we just drive around and drink coffee and do whatever, but we're really out here constantly calling, talking to people, making connections, and it's a lot more emotional and mental than people see, I do believe.
For sure. And, because you kind of have this background where you were in real estate, like admin and things like that, before you got your license, I'm sure you were set up with some great mentors and surrounded by some great people who have, really helped shepherd you along in your career. Is there like a piece of advice maybe that someone gave you that like is really stuck with you and you find yourself kind of hearkening back to a lot?
A piece of advice. Let's think. My first boss, she would always tell me that everyone's her customer and not her client, and because it makes them more of a relationship basis and that they're always going to be their customer. It's always a business. It's not just a one-time transaction for them, and I think that's really stuck with me of you don't just one and done. We're not one and done. I'm going to see you again in a few years. You're going to see me a few times a year. Like, I think that really has stuck with me for sure. Is it's a lifelong thing, and you're building lifelong relationships with your clients, customers. I still don't really know the difference, but I'm gonna call them my customers because that's what she would tell me to do. So yeah, that for sure.
I like that. Yeah. I think you'll find that distinction for yourself along the way,
Yes,
for
I
sure.
think so too.
Mackenzie, are there any like challenges you're currently facing in real estate and how are you working to overcome them?
I would say the biggest challenges are everyone's chatter and being almost like negative about all the laws and things that have changed, which it's quite unfortunate, but we literally have no control over it. So we must stay positive about it and continue to just do our best job that we can do. I fortunately have always used buyer broker agreements because that was just something that was taught to me, luckily. And so having to ask people to sign an extra piece of paper, it can be stressful for some agents, just because we give a lot of stuff away for free, a lot of advice, a lot of knowledge. And it just is a little harder, I think, to hold the citizens accountable that we have to get paid for what we do. We're not just willy-nilly out here showing houses, running around for nothing, and it is gonna close the gap of people that are actually doing the real work of real estate, which I think is very important.
For sure. As someone who has pretty much had your whole career and from an early start in real estate, I'm curious, what your secret sauce to success has been.
I would say to stay positive every single day, to do 1% better every single day. That's all I can do. This is an learn as you go business. I do not know so much. I am constantly the youngest person in the room by 40 years. And I just sit there and I just listen. I try to absorb everything I can from these people that have been doing it their whole lives. And I try not to talk unless people ask me to, because not that I don't have knowledge and info, but I'm just trying to absorb and learn and be what I can that everyone else needs to be, me to be for them. I think is what my secret sauce is plugging myself in any situation I can to be a help to anything, whether sometimes I dog sit for people. That has nothing to do with real estate, but it might help them. What if they sell a house with me because I dogs out for them, you know? You never know. You got to say yes to as much as you can and always show up with a smile on your face.
Oh, that's a beautiful sentiment.
Thank you.
I'm curious if you're finding, because an agent's sphere is so important. Are you at a point where a lot of your friends are buying houses, or is it more kind of like your greater sphere rather than like your immediate friend circle?
Yeah, so my sphere honestly was in Gainesville, where I'm from, and I kind of had to take a look and be like, well, not a lot of people my age are buying homes, so I had to move to the desired market I wanted to sell in. So that's why I now live in Ponte Vedra Beach, and I've had to go out and meet people. I've tried to meet 5 people a day for the past year, which has been a crazy goal. I've probably met 500 people, and obviously not all of them are selling real estate, but they're telling someone, they're giving my card to someone, they're following me on Instagram. Something's happening, and in the world it's making it known that I sell homes here, and those people are coming to me, and I'm getting customers and people all the time asking to buy and sell with me. So I think just having to plug yourself into your community, meet new people, but also keep up with those relationships. And some people just you don't mesh with, but you can still add value to their life even if you don't like them necessarily. And I've had to do that a lot, which is just what life is, and that's helped me a lot.
Okay, so that brought up two interesting questions for me. So, how did you select moving to, I'm going to say it wrong, Ponte Vedra?
Ponte Vedra Beach.
Ponte Vedra. I'm going to get it right.
Yeah.
How did you choose this location?
Well, originally, I was moving to Jacksonville in 2022 and got a job in Jacksonville with my first brokerage, Florida Homes Realty and Mortgage. And they were based out of here. Their corporate office was here. Everything was here. So mainly it was to move to be closer to work. Honestly, just I knew it was another big city, and I had a lot of opportunities for people to allow me to host open houses, which has given me a lot of my success. So it's kind of just a smart move, where's there going to be a lot of momentum going on, and where it's not going to be so crazy for me to almost start fresh, because I did know some friends that lived here. My parents lived close by. So it wasn't a huge move for me, but it was still like a big adjustment. And Ponte Vedra Beach is surrounded by beautiful beach mansions and beautiful, beautiful homes. So it was a no-brainer for me to live here.
And then for your meeting 5 people a day, what does that look like? Is it like you, like, I don't know, you go to the gym and you introduce yourself to 5 new people? Like, what is that actually, what are the action steps of that look like?
Yeah, so for me, I do a lot of active lead generation, so calls. So if I just get one person on the phone that I can send my business card to afterwards, text them, that's one person. I go hang out with my friends out at bars, clubs, networking events, anything. If I talk to one person and I shook their hand and met them, and they know, even if they don't necessarily know I know real estate, but I know if I see them again, I'll talk to them. I consider that as a contact person. I'm constantly following people on Instagram. They're following me, sending them my business info. I send a lot of people like my open house stuff, invite them to come, and then sometimes I'll get 20 contacts in one day, and that kind of suffices for like the weekend. I'll have it as it's all different things. It's texting new friends, meeting. You just got to be open to literally talk to any single person that you meet. And not
And
everyone's gonna align with, real estate or what I'm doing or like, but I've gotten a lot of positive feedback, and I think it's because where I live in is like an entrepreneur friendly community. Everyone's really promoting everyone's business, so everyone wants everyone to succeed here. There's no competition, there's no jealousy, and that has helped immensely with meeting new people every single day.
that's so awesome. I'm curious, is this kind of extroversion, is it very natural for you? Is it something that you feel like maybe you have to work on? Because I know not all
Um,
real estate agents are extroverts, you know?
Right, right. I do enjoy my alone time, but I'm definitely an extrovert. I was raised an only child, so I was bored by myself. I wanted to be with my friends every single day, be at the barn with the animals. I was raised in camps and 4-H, FFA, all that. So I've just always loved being part of a community and being around people. It makes me happy for sure. I would say, but it's not. You can do real estate if you're an introvert. You just have to have this out of yourself to go home and be to yourself. But it is nice to have a lot of energy to give to other people, which I might not necessarily have if I had a family or maybe I was married. I'm 24 and single. I live by myself. I have so much energy and love to give to other people and myself that it's just my circumstance, and I'm that's what it is right now. That might not always be what it is in the future, but I hope so.
Mackenzie, did you set any goals for this year? And if so, how are they going?
Yeah, so I set for my commission goal this year, I set 50K is what I wanted to make more than last year, and I'm on track to make that, so I'm very excited. And then one of my biggest goals right now is listing $1 million home. I've gotten close. I do a lot of $1 million open houses, but I haven't had my own, so that is, I don't know if it'll happen this year, but it's going to happen really soon, and I'm really excited for it.
That's so cool. And have you thought ahead to next year at all? I know we're like getting close.
Next year, oh, there's so many things to do next year. I just gotta make it through this year.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Is there anything you're looking forward to in the last few months of 2024? It doesn't have to be real estate related.
I would say just growing my people that I know and going to events. I love Halloween. Halloween parties are my
Mm.
favorite. So just going out and dressing up with my friends. The holidays are always a fun time. And I've really been plugging into like my new company that I'm with and just building relationships with them. And I really want to go to Vegas by the end of the year is my goal. to
Oh,
go
that'll be good too.
go celebrate, see what real estate's like there, because I know a lot of real estate people live there too, and I'll follow them on social media, and I'm like, looks fun over there. So
Right, you want to go in the winter months when it's like not 110 degrees.
exactly.
Well, Mackenzie, thank you so much for joining me today. Would you like to let people know where they can find you, how they can follow you and work with you?
Yeah, definitely. You can follow me on Mackenzie Douglas Realtor on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. Really simple, first name, last name, Realtor. You can find me anywhere from there. YouTube. I have a few videos, but I'm exploring into the video world. This is my first podcast, actually. So I'm very thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh,
And
thank
I'll
you.
see you another time soon.
Yes, thank you so much, Mackenzie. Thank you for listening to the Closing Table podcast brought to you by Windowstill. I'm Kat Schooler. Please be sure you're following our podcast on Apple or Spotify. And if you're part of our YouTube audience, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're enjoying our podcast, please feel free to leave us a comment or review. It helps us find more amazing listeners like you. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.